when I wrote the film, I'm very interested in different kinds of visual textures, and photography is something I'm very fond of, and at one point wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to explore, cinematography as a line of work. And I love video, I love all these different formats, and so actually when I set out to write the story, I almost had that in mind. I knew that I wanted the film not just to have, a sort of linear narrative that went along a plot, but also allowed for the visual textures of the city to be explored. It gave me a narratively a structure to explore the city through different perspectives, different people's perspectives. So and so the story developed of Shai, coming here, wanting to shoot people who were doing work that may soon be obsolete. So people who are being replaced by malls or industrialization in a sense. And Yasmin and her tapes. So that got me to explore the city with video, almost like a documentary footage of the city. And the main story I wanted to shoot on Super 16 because I love the format. I love film. I mean, a lot of people suggested I shoot on HD, but I'm just one of those old school romantics. I love film, and 16 has a lovely grain, as you can see, when blown up to 35, and it also allowed us to be very quick on our feet. The camera was entirely handheld. It allowed us to shoot in the city very freely and get into small spaces and into the slums, across the railway tracks, all kinds of things. So the different formats helped me really to explore the city the way I really wanted to for the film.
Another question? Gentleman over there.
Hi Kiran. First of all, I have two questions. I absolutely love the way how restrained the direction was. It almost makes you fall in love with the movie, how you would fall in love with a new city, one layer at a time. So my first question is, was it a deliberate attempt on your part to let the camera roll and linger on specific scenes, just so that the audience would be engrossed in that scene for much longer time? And my second question comes from the fact that it almost seems like that protagonists in the movie are falling in love or are being exposed to Bombay or Mumbai through different perspectives. Like Arun gets to look at Bombay through the videotapes, and Shai gets to know Bombay through the Dhobi. So this is a bit of a personal question. What was that moment that defined Bombay for you?
The first question, you're absolutely right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your first question was, what was your first question?
The first question was to let the camera linger on.
Yes. So yeah, it was. I did intend to do that because it's a kind of city that, at least for me, it's one of those places which you either love or you hate. You can either, and when it's one of those places that you can't live with it, you can't live without it. So you're frustrated and you're always tearing your hair out, but you can't live without the energy of that city. And I really wanted that to draw everybody else in. I didn't want it to be, just the visuals of Bombay that everybody's used to, but getting into the Bombays that you may not have seen. Like the old Bombay from Arun's apartment is really a Bombay that we're losing. I mean, these are buildings that are being torn down and new construction is coming up instead of those tile-roofed old chawl buildings. So yes, I did want to linger on all these in visual style. I wanted it to sort of capture Bombay and draw you into the city, rather than just be involved with these people's lives, because the city is really why I made the film. One important Bombay moment. Well, I can't think of any one moment. I do think that shooting on the streets of the city, for instance, during the Ramzan shooting, when Arun walks down that packed street during Ramzan, that was very special, because not just did we have to, of course, choreograph it and all the rest of it, but the visual, just the visual of so many thousands of people packed into a street, all eating together, and it's just a place that we all really were excited to shoot in. And it was a bit of an army operation getting shooting in those conditions. But it was very special, I think, for all of us. We went several times, rehearsed it over a long period without him, of course. And when we shot it, that was something that I think we'll all remember. It was a big 4-camera setup, and it was lots of walkie-talkies and quite excitingly Hollywood for a very small film like that.
And for the question.
And a treat really for the senses, and more than that, I'm just so glad to see the cinema that's emerging now in India and out of Bombay. And I don't really want to say the B word, but I just, and from the Amir Khan stable, and I think that we're looking at your film today, I really honour that as well, and that here's somebody that's prepared to work with you as well to kind of strike out for the cinema that you want to make, and show that it's kind of the calibre that we've been longing for a long time. Can I just widen it out slightly to kind of where you see cinema like yours now placed in kind of what were traditional notions of art cinema or commercial cinema, or the B word cinema?
Yeah, I think things are changing. Maybe it was sort of about time, and the multiplexes helped it a lot as well. Also, the fact that I think a lot more people have joined the middle class. There's a lot of people who there's a demand for different things. I do think, even if it's not overt, people do turn up to watch films like this. I mean, there are huge turnouts at film festivals in India. So there is a big, I think, market and a need for a different kind of cinema other than the commercial mainstream cinema. And the multiplexes have helped us to cater to that demand, I think. People like me, and there are lots of filmmakers now who want to be part of, changing, or at least this more fractured audience that, would niche audience which would watch this kind of film. People want to make films for them. So it is changing. I do think it may not have a massive impact in the mainstream. It'll be a while before that happens. But I think overall Indian cinema is growing in any case. I mean, there is more attention to detail. There's production values have improved. And I hope that in time our investment in writers will produce better content and more topical, meaningful cinema even for the mainstream. So I think there's hope. I think I'm quite excited about working in Bombay today. In India, there's so many languages doing quite remarkable things. So yeah, I think good times ahead. I'm kind of writing a piece about a woman that I'm very interested in, a performer, a Nach girl from turn of the century India called Gohar, who was a singer. She was the first Indian singer to record on Shellac Records back in 1904 or sometime then. The very first woman, or very first Indian artist to be recorded on a record, and she had a really interesting life. So it's not so much a biopic, but it's a piece about women and performance. And I wouldn't know till I've written it really, but I've been interested in it for a while and researched it and been doing that kind of thing. We'll see. It takes me ages to write, so.
Time for just a thing. I'm sure I can say congratulations to you, but hearing that a lot. With regards to the movie, I can say that it impressed almost all of us. Some of us from Bombay, so it was nostalgia at the same time, and for some people it's newness, and hence it might really work well for this target audience. And that's when my question comes. Did you ever think of a target audience in mind when you made this movie? Yeah.
No, actually I didn't, because I've never made anything before, and I'm not very influenced that much by commercial cinema. So I knew whatever I did, it probably wouldn't be a big commercial film, because it's not the kind of thing that I naturally tend towards myself. So when I set out to write, I knew I should just write what rings true for me, what works for me. And writing itself is a process I love, because it's something that allows you to explore an idea and And I didn't know where I was going when I was writing it actually. So until it was written, I didn't know what kind of film it was at all. I didn't know whether anyone would watch it, but I knew that it interested me, and that stuff. It's always, as anyone creative will say, it's always hard to please yourself, and that's one of the hardest things actually. When you read it after a week and you're just like, no, that can't be my first film. So that happened to me a couple of times. I wrote a couple of briefs and just was bored with them soon after. And this was one film that I came back to and I wrote over, it kind of distilled over a few years. And I knew I wanted to make it because it was still interesting to me 2 years later, when I actually started prep. So I didn't know what audience it would be for. I knew it was, I was the audience, and I'm quite sure I'm not an exception. There are people like me who don't mind watching a film that doesn't have a plot really, that doesn't have a moral or even a really one-line premise film. It's just a moments film. So I knew I'd have to make it really small because I didn't want to sort of put anyone's money at risk. I wanted to be able to make it and sort of make the money back. So I tried to make it on a very small budget. But I didn't know what the audience would be. I still don't know. We haven't put it out there, and I have no idea how it will do in India.
So how many years did it take from the start to
I started writing it in 2005, maybe. Yeah. I wrote the first draft in a couple of months in the summer of 2005. And 2006 and 2007 went making Tare Zameen Par and Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na. I was associate producer on those films, so full-time work there. And I kind of had a second draft that I wrote at the end of 2007. And 2008 kind of froze with a third draft. And I started prep in 2008 summer.
I think that's all we've got time for today, but thank you very much.